I'm Josh McGarry, and I've been told that I can be hard to understand sometimes. But with some help from technology, maybe we can fix that. This is Frameworks.
Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just jump right in, because today we're tackling a huge question, one that really sits at the heart of the Christian faith, and something I've been wrestling with in my own conversations lately. And that question is, who is the actual main character of the gospel story? Now, the answer might feel super obvious, but what if we've had the protagonist wrong this whole time?
No, really, I want you to sit with this for a second. When you think about the gospel, when you hear that story, who's at the center of the action? Is it God? Or is it you? You know, your needs, your rescue, your personal journey. It's a tough question, for sure. And the answer, well, it changes absolutely everything.
For so many of us, especially in the modern church, the gospel we hear gives us some serious main character energy. The whole story gets framed as this big cosmic rescue mission where we're the ones in trouble, the ones who are so important and so valuable that God just had to step in. This human-centered view, or, anthropocentric if you want to get technical, it's everywhere.
And this, right here, this is the fork in the road. It creates two totally different ways of seeing the entire story. Is the ultimate focus on me, my personal salvation, my needs, my story? Or is the focus on God, His glory, His plan, His character? That's the core tension we're going to unpack.
This first view basically turns the gospel into a kind of consumer rescue narrative. The main engine of the story is our need, our brokenness, our value. God is reacting to us. And look, that's compelling, right? But what I've been learning lately suggests the real focus might be somewhere else entirely. So here's the twist. This is the question that's been kind of rearranging my brain. What if we're not the protagonists? What if our salvation, which is, don't get me wrong, an incredible, amazing gift, is actually just one part of a much, much bigger story that God is telling for His own reasons? And that leads us to this totally different way of looking at things, the God-centered or theocentric gospel. A story where God isn't just a supporting character in our journey, He's the undisputed protagonist.
So what even is a theocentric gospel? Well, at its core, it means the whole story is centered on God's will, God's glory, God's own faithfulness to His promises. The story belongs to Him. And our role? Well, we're not the heroes waiting for a rescue. We're participants who get invited into His story. It's a massive shift in perspective.
This is what I mean by the vibe shift. Suddenly, the focus snaps from just our rescue to God's overall glory. The story isn't mainly driven by our sin, but by Christ's perfect obedience to God the Father. And the goal isn't just to fix us, but to bring God's bigger, epic story to its fulfillment. So our role? It totally changes from protagonist to participant. Now, to really get this, my conversations have led me to this really powerful analogy that totally reframes why Jesus even came to Earth. It's this idea of Jesus as a kind of cosmic checksum.
Okay, before we dive in, what on earth is a checksum? So in tech, it's actually a pretty simple idea. It's like a digital fingerprint for a file. You run a test, and if the checksum matches the original, you know your data is perfect. It's uncorrupted. If it doesn't match, well, then you know something went wrong. The file's been damaged.
All right, so let's apply this. Imagine creation after the fall is like a corrupted file. The data, humanity, our relationships, the world itself, it's all glitched out. It's not what it was designed to be. Then Jesus shows up. He is the living, breathing incarnation of the original, verified, uncorrupted file. He is the checksum. By living a perfect life, His very existence proves the original design was good, and at the same time, reveals just how corrupted everything else has become. I heard it put this way, and it just clicked for me. He is Eden walking. Think about that. He isn't just a repairman who shows up to fix a problem. He is the walking, breathing validation of God's perfect original design. He's the ultimate test case for humanity, and He passes with flying colors.
Okay, so if God is the main character and Jesus is the one who validates His story, where does that leave us? This is where this whole framework really starts to change things, because it completely redefines our purpose and where our power actually comes from.
And this is the million-dollar question, right? If I'm not the hero, what's my part? Does this mean I have no power, no importance, no agency? And the answer is not at all. but it radically flips the script on the source of that power. So check out this contrast. We talk a lot about power coming from love, but sometimes that can turn into this very feeling-centric, emotional thing. The theocentric framework I've been learning about points to something totally different, almost shocking. It says true power flows from holy self-diminishment, from becoming less. And the perfect model for this is John the Baptist. I mean, think about it. Why was he called the greatest prophet? It wasn't because he was a slick speaker or did a bunch of miracles. His power came from his holiness, from being set apart, and from his one mission, to intentionally make himself smaller so he could point to someone greater. His whole purpose was to decrease. This is it. This is the motto for someone who knows they're a participant in God's story, not the hero of their own. He must become greater. I must become less. Real spiritual power, in this view, isn't found in puffing ourselves up, or showing off our gifts, or making ourselves important. It's found in getting out of the way so that the real protagonist can be seen more clearly. And just to be super clear, a God-centered gospel doesn't erase you from the story. Not at all. In fact, it might just be the most liberating thing you'll ever hear because it frees you from the crushing pressure of having to be the hero. It gives you a new, and maybe even more profound role, to be a holy signpost, a participant whose whole life points away from yourself and towards the true author of reality. So that's the final question I want to leave you with. If the pressure's off, if you're not the main character, what beautiful, unique, and holy part are you actually meant to play in God's grand story? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.